I know that we are pressed for time, but you all, this is a serious topic, okay? Because we're talking about lives. We're trying to save lives right now, okay? So the presentation that I'm going to do is just a highlight. And I'm hoping that Bishop will have me come back so I can go more in depth. But some of the questions that you all raised, hopefully I'll be able to address those during today's presentation. I am one that loves audience participation. So when I ask the question, please don't let me hear the birds chirping. Please say something, okay? Yell out. And we do have our runners here who are going to be here, our volunteers, to come around to you really quickly and give an answer. It's no right or wrong answer because it's what you know or what you think you know. So hopefully by the end of the presentation, you'll know more. So that way you can help others. And I wish this room was full, but the ones that are here are representing. And you know how Memphis is, it spreads by word of mouth. It only takes one, y'all, where they say only one or two are gathered, okay? That's all we need. And the message will spread. All right, we can go ahead and get started. So we're going to talk about, and I wish we had more teenagers here, but you know what? You all have a teenager, right? Or know of a teenager. So any information we share today, hopefully this will help you. I'm also going to talk about adults as well. So teenage suicide, we're going to focus a little bit on depression, social media, and trauma. Next up. So, first question, what is suicide? That's the first one, you all. I need to know, what is suicide? Taking your own life. Thank you. All right, you can go ahead and click for me. Suicide is death caused by injuring oneself with the intent to die. That's something we do. It's self-inflicted. Okay, whether it's intentional or not, if you take yourself by course of the definition, it says taking your own life. Next up, I want to know, not yet, don't show yet. Whoop, go back. What is suicide attempt? What is a suicide attempt? I need a mic, I can't hear.
You attempt but don't complete. You attempt to kill yourself, but you don't complete.
Oh, she said the attempt, you try, but you don't complete it. Go ahead. You are correct. Y'all so smart. It's when someone harms themselves with any intent to end their life. So they may have had the intent to do it, but it did not happen. Maybe because they stopped, someone interrupted them, or who knows? They weren't successful at the means that they used. And then I'm going to ask you this. What is suicidal ideation? The thought of suicide. Thank you. Put that up there. Because I know we've been talking about this today, but I thought y'all needed to know the definitions. Suicidal ideation refers to thinking about, considering, or planning to commit suicide, okay? So those are the three. When people are asking, what is it? Suicide, suicidal attempt, and suicidal ideation. So be careful when you hear those words. So now you know what they mean. Next up. I'm going to show you right here the leading causes of death. You all, I'm going to just tell you. I was going to ask, but I'm going to tell you. Number one, leading cause of death, some of you may be able to see this, for ages 1 to 44 is accidental death. It's an injury. That could be a car accident. That could be an accidental overdose of medication, right? That's an accident. It could be falling off a bike. But think about what I just said. Accidental. But when I said suicide, that's the intent of taking your life, right? Or it's the act of taking your life. So if you took an overdose of drugs and you died, you did it. Is that a suicide? Some people say yes, some people say no. That's the $1 million question. If you go by the definition, yeah, they attempted suicide. But if you go by what's legal, well, it was accidental. They really didn't want to die. They were just taking a lot of it at that time. So that's where the line is a little blurred. So when we're looking at stats, I want you to sort of think about that. So they say number one cause of death is accidental, but some of those may have been a suicide. Number two, ages 10 to 34. You all, these are young people, 10 to 34. Number one cause of death is suicide. So we are losing our youth, you all, from babies on up to young adults, either from an accident or they took their lives. And you know, number three, homicide. We are losing. Ideally, those teenagers I was talking about, 15 to 34, they die by homicide. That's third leading cause of death. Y'all, it's not cancer. It's not just stress. It's not anything medical. They are dying either because they've lost it because somebody hit them in a car. They've lost it because they took their own lives, or they lost it because somebody killed them. This is United States, you all, but this is Tennessee. This is Memphis, okay? So when you're thinking about this, it's coming home, right? So what can we do? Can we do anything? If we couldn't do anything, you wouldn't be here today. Next up. Facts about suicide. Let me share this with you. It can be impulsive or planned. So it could have been they got upset, mad about something, and did something just not thinking, picked up a weapon and shot themselves. Could be. Or it could have been something methodical, something that they had been thinking about, stressors they've had, and that's what caused them to lose their life. However, not all suicide attempts lead to death now. They don't, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And it does not always mean your child wants to die. I think somebody talked about that earlier. It could be their way of calling for help, right? They figure, well, my parents aren't listening to me. I've told them multiple times that I'm upset, I'm hurt, I'm being bullied. I can't take it anymore. They're not listening. And what do some parents say? Oh, you'll be all right. Get over it. You ain't stressed. Y'all don't know what stress is, right? We say that. Not to be mean, but we say it because we can't imagine anyone that young going through anything that would cause them to take their own lives. But it could be their cry for help. Facts about suicide. I'm going to share a few with you. You all, it's a lot, okay? So I'm not going to be able to cover every fact and every warning sign, but I'm going to bring up quite a few, all right? Because I know you all have been talking about that. I've heard the conversations. Go ahead. Suicide rates increased, you all, 33% between 1999 and 2019. Just looking at that 10 years, with a small decline in 2019, but we did also see a little bit of a decline in 2020, but not so much. Certain populations had increases. Next up. 47,000 people died by suicide in 2019. You all, that's a lot of people. We're still finalizing the results from 2020. Every 2 years we get our updates, so I'm just sharing this with you all. Next up. Over 1,200 reported suicide deaths in Tennessee in 2019, and we had close to that last year as well. That's just in Tennessee. Next up. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death for all age groups. It's everybody, okay? Not hypertension, not asthma, not COPD, not pneumonia, not the flu, not COVID. Suicide. Next. According to SAMHSA, They're the ones that research alcohol, mental health, and substance abuse, you all. There were 1.4 million suicide attempts. Think about that. 1.4 million they were able to track down and find out that they were attempted, like they attempted suicide. That's one every 22.5 seconds. Thank goodness 1.4 million didn't die by suicide, right? So something happened to intervene, okay? Next up. Someone dies by suicide approximately every 11.1 minutes. You all, so within an hour, you've lost 6 people. Think about that. That's major. Every life matters. So we really need to be on top of this. You know, people talk about homicide, and that's important. People talk about COVID, that's important. But we got people dealing with all of this stuff and taking their own lives. That's also just as important to me. Someone aged 10 to 24. Think about this. This is elementary to college age, young adult. Dies by suicide approximately every hour and 21 minutes. Y'all, this is our future. These are futures, doctors, lawyers, sanitation workers, teachers, presidents, who knows, judges. We're losing them. This is why we're doing this presentation, and I thank goodness that Bishop saw fit to do this today. Next up. Facts about suicide. You all just going through this. Second leading cause of death, like they said, ages 10 to 14. Third leading cause of death for ages 15 to 24 on average. And then on average, we lose more than 3 people to suicide in Tennessee per day when they're looking at everything. But I want you to look at the bottom thing that I wrote. The age range with the highest rate of suicide nationally are those 55 to 59. Y'all, there might be a lot of us sitting out here, right? All right. Followed by those 85 and older. So I'm going to ask you all, why do you think 85 and older are one of the highest? No family. Regret, loss of independence. Y'all are on point. That's it. We have a lot of those 85 and older living in senior citizens' homes, assisted living facilities. No one goes to visit. There might have been, like my grandmother, it was 9 of them. She was the last of all of her siblings. She didn't take her life, but she talked about how lonely she was and depressed, not having her siblings. She started losing her hearing, had difficulty communicating. So you all think about this. We're all going to get old one day, right? So there are reasons why people choose to take their lives. They think it is the only possible solution, like the pastor said. All right, next up. Gender and suicide. You all, men are 3.6 times more likely to die by suicide. 3.6 times. Why do you think that is? Anybody? Wait a minute, I can't hear you.
They choose an easier method, like they will choose a gun, a more sure method, something that they know will work.
They choose a more severe method. That's what she said. That's it. They're 3.6 times more likely because they may use a gun. So it's more than likely they're going to complete it, right? Not always. Sometimes they might miss, be paralyzed, have brain damage. Anything could happen, or they could survive. Who knows? But women attempt 3 times as often as men. Women, let me ask you this. Why would we be stressed out enough to try to take our lives? Are we stressed? Oh, we are? Why? We wear many hats. Okay. Like what? Children, working, stress, might be relationship problems. You all, They try multiple times. However, the means that they use are not as severe, right? Or a child may walk in while that mom is trying to do something to take her life, and then she can't. Thank goodness for the child, right? Thank God. Anything could be a possible reason as to why. But as you see here, the rate of suicide is highest in white men over age 75, followed by those age 55 to 59. Now, when I think of most of the people that have died by suicide are white. However, the numbers for those of color are increasing. Men are higher too. Why? They're stressed. Biblically, they're the head of the house, right? They're supposed to be responsible, have a job, make money, right? Take care of everything. Now you see men can't get a job. Men can't keep a job, right? Men may be dealing with mental illness. They may have multiple kids, different women. They may be really stressed out, right? Could be. You don't know. They could be discriminated against. There are multiple reasons as to why, you all. Next up. Tennessee. I just wanted to show you this because I just thought this was overwhelming. Tennessee, the means of suicide, 61% were by firearms, which is higher than the national average. Why is Tennessee higher? Why do we use guns more than the United States? Wait a minute, I can't hear you. More easily accessible. Why is that? Gun laws. Our gun laws are different, you all. So when we're thinking about who we're voting for, and this is no matter what your political involvement is, but thinking about gun laws. We have very lax gun laws. Who can carry? When you're voting for people, you need to make your vote count. Think about this. They're able to use firearms. Suffocation and hanging is one. 23% poisoning. That could be alcohol poisoning, drug overdose poisoning. You all with the kids that were using the little Tide balls, eating those, that was poisoning. True enough, those kids didn't want to die, but some of them now have a lot of health-related problems because they ingested all of those chemicals, right? And then last, other means. Next up. All right. Suicide varies by race, ethnicity, age, and other factors. You all, suicide affects us all. It does not matter who you are. It could impact any and all of us at any time. But one of the recent numbers that we're seeing an increased spike of, young people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual have a higher rate of suicidal ideation and behavior compared to their peers who identify as straight. Now, everybody has their views, but if we're looking at it overall, it's still a life. But we're seeing that those youth that may be having issues trying to figure out who they are and identify in sexuality, they have higher rates. And they may be members of our congregation, members of our families, friends, co-workers. Next up. Black youth suicide attempt. You all, our numbers are increasing. So much that the Congressional Black Caucus convened, you all, in 2019 and said, you know what? We need to start a task force. These numbers are rising. Why are they rising so much? I'm going to let you see this next stat for it. Yes, sir. Black youth under 13, did you hear me? Under the age of 13 are twice as likely to die by suicide compared to their white peers. That's real. 13? You barely know how to tie your shoes. You're trying to read, right? But then you're taking your lives. So just know that people are seeing these numbers through our legislator, through our police department, through our courts, through our churches, schools, you all, we care. So we're trying to do everything we can, and as I get more information, I don't mind sharing that, but they're trying to do more recommendations around research and interventions and things that they can do to try to get these numbers decreased, but also find out what's going on as to why the numbers are so high. Yes, sir. Stressors for youth. Lots of things can affect a child's mood. Their body is changing. They're dealing with hormones, right? They're going through a lot. Some people say they're not as resilient as we once were. They hold their emotions on their shoulders. It's hard for them to accept things. You feel pressure from friends, families, teachers, and they may be dealing with negative events. Now, I did want to talk about this. It was brought up, you all, trauma. Everybody's been hearing the word trauma, okay? And we're going to talk briefly about adverse childhood experiences. These are things that every one of us, for the most part, has experienced either directly or indirectly. But studies have been done over the years, since 1997, looking at trauma, working with Kaiser Permanente and the ACE questionnaire. Those conventional ACEs over there, they're talking about a reason that may contribute, you all, to suicide. Physical abuse, if they've been physically abused. Emotional abuse. That's someone that parent may come home every day and the parent curses them out. Or they may hear somebody talk negatively about them. You're no good. You ugly. I can't stand you. You're stupid. You're dumb. Y'all, that's emotional abuse. And when you start to hear that every day, you start to believe it. And you think that's who you are. Sexual abuse, emotional neglect, physical neglect. Those could be possible reasons why someone may want to take their lives. Domestic violence situation, household substance abuse. Someone in that house is using substances and may take it out on their child or that adult. Incarcerated care provider. Someone in their house may be locked up. They may not know who their mother or father is, or every time they see them, they're looking at them behind bars. Mental illness in the home. Someone is suffering from it, and it may or may not be receiving medical attention for it, mental health attention. So it's going undiagnosed, right? So thinking about that. And then the ACE study was expanded in Philadelphia, and they added 5 more. So look at it, witnessing violence. Okay, isn't that everybody? Whether you saw it on TV, on social media, or in your own backyard. Witnessing violence. Living in an unsafe neighborhood. I don't know about you, but we're in the midst of a COVID pandemic still. Every neighborhood is unsafe, right? Think about it. If you have a home that is roach infested, rat infested, is that unsafe? If you have gangs, is that unsafe? Okay. Experiencing racism, living in foster care, experiencing bullying. And you all, I'm saying bullying, but for my adults, harassment at work. All of those things. I hear amen corner back there. Exactly. Think about this. All of these things you all could contribute to why somebody may want to take their lives. I'm not saying to take it, but I'm just saying when you're constantly berated with this stuff on a regular basis and you don't have good coping skills, that's why people think about it. All right? Yes. Depression may call. It may start because you're like, this is too much for any one person to take, right? So depression may start. It's a common but serious mood disorder. But to be diagnosed with depression, the symptoms must be present for at least 2 weeks, sometimes more. And we mean constantly, okay? We get depressed over someone passing, yes. But eventually, we sort of get out of that. But when it's constant and all the time, you all, that could really mean that you might be clinically depressed. So, some of the signs of depression, I'm going to go through them sort of quickly because I know we're short for time, but persistent sadness, anxious, or empty mood. Irritability could be a sign, you all. Feelings of guilt, decreased energy or fatigue, moving or talking more slowly, appetite or weight changes. You might be overweight or underweight. You may stop eating. All of those, you all, are signs of depression. Aches and pains, headaches. Some people are depressed, but it'll show themselves in physical ways, right? As opposed to just emotional. Yes, sir. Continue warning signs. Can anybody tell me warning sign of suicide? Isolation. Thank you. Isolation is one. Anybody else? Giving away prized possessions. Good. Go ahead. Let's put that up. Some of it is that. And then I wanted to make sure I put this out here. Mass depression. Risk-taking behaviors can include acts of aggression, gunplay, and alcohol and substance abuse. Sometimes people just think depressed people are sad. Sometimes they're angry. And they're acting out. So you all need to see that. That depression is being hidden, right? You know how we go out and we don't want people to know what happens? What they say, what happens in this house stays in this house. So we got a mask when we go out. Everything is good. How you doing today? I'm fine. Knowing you're not fine. Knowing things are not well. But we don't want to, what they say, tell other people our business. We don't want people to think we're vulnerable or weak. Hurting oneself could be a possible warning sign of suicide as well, you all, including running into traffic, jumping in the heights. Some people say putting yourself in front of the police, knowing that that's the only thing that may happen is that you may die. You have a gun. You got 5 officers. Do you really think you're going to live and survive that? Think about that, you all. Dramatic changes, withdrawing from friends like she said. Next up. Making those final arrangements, funerals. Some people start to plan that. You all, with COVID, we've all started to make plans. But some people are really going full throttle with it and making very serious plans. And they're doing it as young people. Yes, sir. Suicide notes. They are a very real sign of danger. Threats. They may say, I want to die. I am going to kill myself. Or they'll say the world would be better off without me. Nobody will miss me. Sometimes you all, like they said, I didn't see a sign. Sometimes we hear it, but we don't recognize it. We see it, but we don't see it. They're showing you, you're wondering, why are you losing all this weight? Oh, I'm just not hungry, my stomach, I got problems. It might be that they're suicidal, you all, or depressed. Or, I'm going to kill myself if such and such happens. You might have a coworker. If my boss says one more thing to me, I'm just going to kill myself. Or what we would hear in school a lot of times, if my boyfriend breaks up with me, I'm going to kill myself. And then people stay in those relationships because they think that other person is going to do it. And they may do it. Okay? Next up. Previous attempts. If they've attempted before, it's a greater likelihood that they may do it again. Next. Survivors of suicide loss. And I thank Pastor Young for being here, but you all, those who've lost someone, sometimes they blame themselves. And when they blame themselves, sometimes they want to take their own lives. So those are ones we need to hug around, stay around. And I was so happy when he said, I'm going to get some counseling. My wife getting counseling. All of us need counseling. You do. Doesn't mean you got a mental illness, but you just need somebody to talk to and cope with. And sometimes you can't talk to your family because they don't understand or they're too close to it. Next up. Other warning signs, you all, we're limited for time. I can't go through all, but just want you to see, talking about or leaving, going away, they have trouble focusing, they lose interest in hobbies or events. They may go out with you all the time and then stop. They may usually look beautiful, and then they stop taking care of their grooming. They don't brush their teeth. They don't do their hair. They're showing up late for work. They don't go to school. It's reasons behind that. Those are all different reasons, you all. Next up. So, social media. Some people like it, some people don't. All these different ways that youth are going online, they're sharing their thoughts. Instead of talking with their parents that may not listen or friends, they put it online. I want to kill myself. And unfortunately, sometimes you got people on there saying, go ahead and do it. And that's what we're seeing. That's what they're looking at, you all. The state is looking at those, and they're trying to shut it down as it comes up, but they keep creating these apps and sites where kids go on and find ways to kill themselves or find ways to vent. And you say, well, journal, find ways, but then they're journaling out to who knows who may not have their best interests at heart. Okay, next. So you all still, when things like that happen, watch out for rumors and information, because sometimes that information is not always accurate. So you as parents in the audience, be mindful of what your youths are doing. Look at their pages, see what's going on, know something, say, because why? Sometimes parents are the last to know. They tell their friends before they tell their parents or teachers. They may even tell their counselor at school. Next up. So, know the warning signs. You all, don't be afraid to talk. Talk to somebody. Closed mouth does not get fed. Talk to them. Find out what's going on. And prepare yourself mentally for what the answer may be, because sometimes you see it, but like I said, you're afraid to say something. Don't make deals. We always tell kids, don't make deals, and adults too. Don't keep that a secret. Because if that person does kill themselves, then you're stuck with their guilt, knowing that you knew and you didn't do anything to stop it. Tell an adult, kids, please tell an adult. Ask them, don't be afraid. And then, if your school has a crisis team, go to someone in the school system, go to a counselor or a teacher, someone that you trust, that you can confide in, because it's too much for you to handle on your own. Okay, next. Who can you call? These are the 3 numbers, you all. You can take a picture of this page. The National Suicide Hotline number is on the far left. Then our Tennessee number is right there in the middle, you all. They work 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. These are numbers where you can call, even if you're not in the crisis. If you know someone and you're trying to figure out, what do I say to them? These are numbers you can call and ask. And sometimes they'll tell them more than they'll tell you. And last, for teens, we also have the text line. And that we just say text TN to 741-741. Teenagers like that. They can text. And last year, we had astronomical numbers of people texting, which was awesome. Because imagine how many lives we saved because they text. And then last but not least, you all, these are our services here. We have adult mobile crisis. If we know of an adult that's in a crisis situation and needs mental health assessments, if they're suicidal or homicidal. And then at the bottom, we have youth at the top and then adult at the bottom. The youth go through youth villages. The bottom goes through Alliance Healthcare. Next. So you all, thank you. That is my time. I appreciate you. And I hope that you've learned something today. Out of everything that you've heard, learn something. Learn that you can make a difference. Know what the warning signs are. We have pamphlets right out there in the lobby. It goes through in-depth questions, answers, anything you need to know about suicide with all age groups. Please be sure to stop by the TSPN table. Thank you so much for your time. And look, you all, let's go out and save a life.